In this video, we'll take a look at section 21.2, the straight line. A straight line on a coordinate plane with an x-axis and a y-axis is the set of all points that satisfy an equation that has two variables, x and y. An equation with x only is a vertical line, and an equation with y only is a horizontal line. The linear equations have several forms, and we'll take a look at each one of these. This is also some of the same content that's in section 5.1. So first form is called the point-slope form. So if we're given a point of the form x1, y1 with a slope of m, the point-slope form of that equation is, the linear equation, is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So if we take a look at our example, I've got 2 points graphed. Find the equation of the line that passes through the point -4, 1 with a slope of -1/2. Okay, so slope of -1/2 is counting down 1 to the right 2. Remember that slope is rise over run. So this is our line graphed. So to find the equation, we substitute our point and our slope into the function, into the point-slope form. Y is the variable, that stays the same. So y minus the y value is equal to the slope times x minus the x value. Then we simplify. So I end up with, I'll put an extra step in here. If you're not sure where this step came from right here, instead of multiplying -1/2 through, what they've done is multiplied both sides by 2 so that they don't have to worry about fractions. So we get 2 times y is 2y minus 2 times 1, 2, is equal to, then they distributed the negative x minus 4. Then they wrote it in what's called general form. That means putting everything on one side and 0 on the other. So they've added x and added 4. We get x plus 2y plus 2 is equal to 0. So if you haven't seen that trick, if you don't want to work with fractions, multiply both sides of your equation by the common denominator. Okay. So practice, we're going to take a look at finding the equation of a line that passes through -2, -1 with a slope of -2. So start with your point-slope form, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Substitute your x values, x1, y1 value. Y is the variable. So we get y minus y1, which is -1, is equal to m, the slope, -2, times x minus x1, which is -2. Okay, simplify. Y minus a negative is y plus 1 is equal to -2 times x plus 2. We get y plus 1 is equal to -2x minus 4 by distributing the -2. Bring everything to one side. That means we're going to add 2x and add 4 if we want to get it in general form. We get 2x plus y plus 1 plus 4 is equal to 0. Add like terms. That's the equation of our line in general form. Next example uses the same idea, but we're not given a point and a slope. This time we're given 2 points. So what we know from the previous section is we can find the slope between these 2 points. To use the point-slope form, we have to have a point and a slope. So let's find the slope first. Slope is equal to difference in y-coordinates, 2 minus a -1, divided by the difference in x-coordinates, 6 minus 2. So I end up with 2 plus 1 over 6 minus 2. Oops. 2 plus 1 is 3, 6 minus 2 is 4. So the slope is 3/4. Now that I have a slope, pick one point or the other. It doesn't matter, you'll get the same answer. So I'm going to select the point 6, 2, and then substitute it in the point slope form. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So I end up with y minus 2 is equal to the slope, 3/4, times x minus x1, which is 6. Okay, I'm going to use that trick where I can get rid of the 4, so I don't have to have fractions. Multiply both sides by 4, both sides of the equation. I end up with 4y minus 8 is equal to, this 4 cancels with this 4, 3 times x minus 6. Distribute the 3, 4y minus 8 is equal to 3x minus 18. Now if I want to write it in general form, I want everything on one side. I'd like the 3x to be negative or positive. It doesn't have to be. So this time I'm going to subtract 4y and add 8. So I'll get 0 equals 3x minus 4y. I have the minus 18. Add 8 to both sides. We end up with 3x minus 4y. Negative 18 plus 8 is minus 10 is equal to 0. So this is general form. You may be asked to put it in slope-intercept form. Just be careful on my math lab just to see what each problem asks for. Okay? All right, next idea is horizontal and vertical lines. If you have a horizontal line, it has the equation y is equal to some value b, okay? Because it always hits the y-axis. If you have a vertical line, it's x is equal to some value. X is equal to a, this because it hits the x-axis. Notice y equals b is parallel to the x-axis. X equals a is parallel to the y-axis. So if you were to graph y is equal to 3, that would hit the y-axis at 3. There would be your horizontal line at y is equal to 3. If we were to graph x equals negative 2, it's going to hit the x-axis at negative 2, and that would be a vertical line. And just a reminder, horizontal line has slope 0. A vertical line has undefined slope. Not 0, not no slope, but undefined. All right, next idea is slope-intercept form. This is also in section 5.1. So this is just practice. If you have an equation that's already in general form, this is how to get it into slope-intercept form. We call it slope-intercept form because it's solve for y is equal to m is the slope of the line. Without having to find it, you can look at the equation and identify. And b is a point on your line called the y-intercept. That's where your line crosses the y-axis. So if you have a straight line graphed, it hits the y-axis right here at the y-intercept. Right, so if we have an equation that's given in general form, 2y plus 4x minus 5 equals 0, to write it in slope-intercept form, solve for y. So in this case, we're going to get the subtract 4x and add 5 to both sides, and we end up with 2y equals negative 4x plus 5. The next step is to get y by itself. Divide both sides by 2. That means you have to divide both terms by 2. We end up with y is equal to negative 2x plus 5 halves. So this is useful because we know the slope of our line is negative 2, and we know a point on the line is the y-intercept 0, 5 halves. And this back in section 5.1 is going to be useful for graphing. You start at your y-intercept, 0, 5 halves. Your slope is negative 2 over 1. So if you count down 2 to the right 1, it's the way to graph your lines pretty quickly. Okay, so last item is just to reiterate that the general form of a line is ax plus by plus c is equal to 0. So in this section, you're taking a look at different forms of a line and how to, so y3, the general form, puts everything on one side equal to 0. The slope-intercept form makes it easy for us to graph. And then the last, the point-slope form, allows us to find the equation of a line if we know the slope and one point only.